What's up, guys? So the other day I ended up having a service call and I went ahead and took a video for you guys. So go ahead and check it out. And also don't forget to like and follow. All right, guys?
So this customer called in and stated that their system was not cooling. So I came on over and pretty much we're going to go ahead and see if we can't get them up and cooling so that they don't have to worry about sleeping in the heat. This system is fairly new. I believe the homeowner said that it's only about a year old. So let's see what ended up failing in a year. And honestly, a lot of times it's going to be due to a lack of maintenance. You can tell by the dirty stain on that black insulation that this thing hasn't been getting maintained. And we may be having a bit of issues probably with the drain line as well. But first things first, I always like to check the high voltage coming in the unit, and yep, it is pretty much telling me that this thing is not allowing the 240 volts to go past that breaker. So that's going to be the issue that we have of why the system is not running. Okay,
Hopefully we have a bad breaker here.
I ended up going to the main breaker panel and I turned off the power going to this unit. And right here, I'm just confirming that the power is shut off. And I am also checking each leg to ground because it's always better to be safe than sorry. Now that I've confirmed there's no power going to this breaker, guys, I'm going to go ahead and unwire it. And then I can go ahead and take the breaker out as well so that I can get the new breaker installed. I did have an issue here because I was about to install this breaker, but I was like, you know what, let me just make sure that it is going to work. So I ended up using my meter to check the continuity on it, and it actually ended up being bad. So that sucked because this was a brand new breaker, so I guess it was just bad out the box. So I ended up having to go back to my van and grab another breaker, which, you know, luckily I did have a second one. Okay. But anyways, this is going to be the new breaker that I got right here. And I did test it in the van, but I'm going to go ahead and test it right here in front of you guys so you guys can see that it does work before I put it in. Okay. So you guys can hear that beep. So that does mean that I am getting continuity between the bottom and the top of the breaker. So we are good to go. Now we can go ahead and get this thing wired in, and once it's wired in, we should be able to turn the system on and get these customers up and cool. All right, these things, they get a little fidgety sometimes, so you just gotta, you know, play with them a little here and there. And I finally did end up getting this thing to snap into place with a little bit of, you know, persuasion, but that's just how it is sometimes. No biggie. Alright, now that the wires at the top are nice and tight, we can go ahead and focus on the bottom of the breaker and get these wires nice and tight as well. While I was in the middle of working, guys, the customer did have a bunch of guests arriving, and they did explain to me that they were going to be having a lot of people showing up because they were going to be having a little get together. So when I explained to them that I was going to be able to get them up and cooling today, they were super excited. You can tell by looking at my arms that this attic was super hot, guys. I kid you not. I was actually surprised that I was sweating that much. Now that we have everything connected properly, we're going to go ahead and check to make sure that we're getting our voltage from the top and it is making its way to the bottom. Right here, I forgot to turn it on, so that's okay though. It happens. Now, right there, we did confirm that we are getting our voltage to the bottom, so the system should be turning on in a bit. And there you go, you do hear it coming on, so we should be good to go there. Alright, now that we got the system up and running and the door is closed, I'm going to go ahead and just take a quick little temperature difference between the supply plenum and the return, just to see what range this thing's in. And it was around 18 degrees, so that is pretty good. No issues there. That was pretty much it for this call. Afterwards, I pretty much was just cleaning up all my stuff and making sure everything was gonna run okay for the customers. I do always like to monitor the system for an additional 15 to 20 minutes, and I like to make sure that everything is draining the way it needs to. And I did forget to add that I did actually have to unclog the drain line because it was clogged up, and a lot of that water was actually seeping into the insulation on the bottom of the air handler, which, you know, I did explain that to the customer, but their only concern was just to make sure that the system was going to cool, and that is it. They weren't interested in any maintenance stuff at this time, which is completely fine. It's not a big deal. But anyways, check out this whole entire drain setup here. I am really not a fan of how they did this whole P-trap setup. The drain line also has like a huge curve going all the way to the outside also. While I was here, I did end up giving the customer a full report of all the issues that I found as I was working on the unit, which was quite a few. The customer was not interested in any of my recommendations, so that's pretty much it for this call, guys. Have a great day.